So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name is Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. Welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Welcome back to the second part of our discussion with Joanne Hart, the founder of Health and Heart. If you haven't heard our first chat, then please do have a listen, as we covered how she got into being a nutritionist after working in the corporate field as an IT professional, amongst other topics. In the second part of our discussion, we started talking about her other string to her bow, yoga. Then came round to chatting about nutrition in other cultures, and what we needed to be thinking about with regards to our nutritional balance for certain running events. I really do hope you enjoy our chat. You said you came back here and you did yoga, or did you started doing yoga in America?
I trained to be a yoga teacher before I went, and then I finished my training off when I was there.
Oh, I see.
So when I was there, I did it with British Wheel of Yoga. So they let me do it remotely. Just had a teacher over there that had to supervise and things, which is quite lucky to do. And then I taught yoga there at a YMCA as a voluntary piece of work for a while. Did a few other bits. Yeah, nothing to do.
I did my personal training through the YMCA.
Did you? Yeah. No, it's nice. Yeah, it was a nice one. Newport Beach.
All right. So do you find that in the nutrition advice that you offer and the yoga, do you find with some clients they merge or they help each other in any way?
Yeah. So a lot of my consultations are video ones with people.
Okay.
So they're from all different places. So I'm not seeing them to physically teach them yoga, but I talk to them about yoga because I can see the benefits of it, and it forced yoga on them. I might say, is there something you can do like this? But often they're interested in it, and probably because they see that I do that or they do it already. So I might talk to them about relaxation techniques or breathing, or sometimes some certain stretches might help.
Yeah.
Know which yoga pose might get into a certain part, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Because from what you were saying earlier, this kind of holistic approach in terms of your nutrition, I suppose yoga helps to a certain extent. I don't know. It's it's very good for the mind. And you're at peace with yourself.
Yeah. I was trying to think. There is research that says that yoga increases levels of GABA, which is your relaxing neurotransmitter. So like serotonin is your happy one, GABA is your relaxing one. And things like going for a walk can as well. So when you're doing activities like you're running, many of us are, it depends how relaxed you are, doesn't it? Many people are in a bit more stressed state, aren't they? They're on the go. It's that fight or flight type running, training and things. So having something that's the opposite of that is really valuable to help with the stress hormones and to bring yourself back into balance. And I think also when you do yoga practice, you notice the niggles before they happen, before they get worse. Because you'll feel like, I've got a bit of an ache in my back, or I need to do some back exercises, or I've got a bit of a sore toe, that kind of thing. You'll notice it faster. Yeah. Whereas if you go on an hour run with that sore toe or whatever, you're probably going to make it worse, aren't you?
What do you think, from everyone you've seen, is there anything generic that people are getting wrong, or they're, in terms of the issues they're having, or what could it be?
There's a lot of people not necessarily getting it wrong, but following trends and things. There's always a new trend coming out, isn't there, about how to eat?
Yeah.
And some of those, whether you call it a trend or not, some of those they're coming about not necessarily for health reasons. So if some people argue with this, but if you think about the whole plant-based discussion.
Yeah, I was kind of come to
that's
that,
coming from all these different angles, isn't it? That's coming from the angle of environmental. It's coming from the angle of animal welfare, ethics, all these different areas. But for an individual, is that the best diet for them?
Exactly.
That's the question, isn't it? Because fundamentally, is that the right diet for that person? And obviously, if somebody wants to eat like that, that's fine. And I would definitely, obviously, help them along the way.
Yeah.
But I would help educate people on what you think is the right thing for them to do.
Because do you think that they may be missing out? Because if they've gone down this path, they may be missing out on, I don't know.
Yeah, of course, yeah. People that eat an animal-based diet are missing out on some things. Sometimes they still need to do something additional. But I put on my Instagram, and I had a salad somewhere when I was out. I'm not a vegetarian. I eat all the different foods, but I had a vegetarian salad because that was the best option at the place, and I like that, I like vegetables, so fine. And it said it had tofu and hummus in it, but there's hardly anything in it, and there's just not enough to sustain a person to be not hungry afterwards. And I could have had that at home and could have filled myself up with different quantities and putting different things in it.
Yeah.
So it's about, you need to know how to do it as well.
Yeah.
And then with the plant-based food as well, you can eat, can't you? You can eat your lentils and your beans, fantastic, but you can also buy the packaged food as well. And so if you buy that in the supermarket, the wisest thing to do is turn it over and look at the label, see what the ingredients are in it. And do you recognise those ingredients, or does that food fit into that ultra processed food category, which we know isn't what we want to be eating?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Depends how you want to, look after yourself.
Yeah. I don't know whether this is a controversial point, but do you think we're always advised that we should be eating more fish? But I can't help thinking that for most people, that's too expensive.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Difficult, isn't it? Fish. Yeah. I know. I love fish.
Yeah.
It is expensive, isn't it? And even when you're at the coast, it's expensive. You don't seem to get any benefit from buying it from these places that are cheaper. It's really interesting. I think my approach for that would be, fish I think is a good idea because it's a lean protein. So you're getting your protein, but you're not getting the saturated fats that you get within the meats. And for some people, too much of that could be a problem. Not saying for everybody always, depends what's going on for them. And the oily fish as well, like the salmon and mackerel and herrings and trout, those give you your omega-3s as well.
Yeah.
But they are quite pricey. So I would say things like buy some canned fish.
Yes. Yeah.
That's one approach, isn't it? Or they quite often do a deal, don't they, where you get 3 pieces of fish in the supermarket for the price of 2. Yeah. You need to be looking out for things like that. Or buy fish that's not as popular. They've got different names for the cheap. I can't think of what they are at the moment, but there are a few, aren't there, that are priced a bit less in price. Yeah. And you've got to learn to cook as well, really, haven't you? Have some basic cooking skills to get the best out of some of those things as well. Yeah, because a piece of fish on its own will be tasteless, but so would a piece of chicken or something. So you've got to learn to make a bit of a sauce with some lemon juice and some capers or some herbs or a ratatouille or something like that, those kind of things.
In fact, you just highlighted a very big point that we were discussing as a family, is that do you think people don't know the basics of cooking? Because basically just knowing how to cook, because I was taught to cook by watching my mum, and it's the same with my wife, Katie. She'd watched her mum and whatever. And it's knowing how to cook and I enjoy the process of cooking. I do a paella and I love cooking the paella.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to do.
It's a nice thing to do. Do you think not enough people know that?
I don't think people always know how to cook, but I think a lot of people that do running, their priority is they go to work and then they want to do their exercise. Yeah. So the food has got to fit in somehow. They're not putting their effort always, not all of them, but they're not always putting their effort into prioritising cooking that meal in the evening. So they need some faster recipes. I think things like stir fries are really easy. You can knock up a stir fry, can't you, in 10 minutes? Yeah. Bit of garlic, onion, some chicken, some pineapple and ginger and some veg, job done. Yeah. And that's quite a filling meal. You can have a packet of microwave rice if you want. It's that kind of thing. That's a cooking skill, or making like a bolognese sauce. I think everybody needs to learn, don't they, just a few recipes for themselves.
Do you think
there's a few companies, Do
you think we're guilty as a nation for that? Because whereas everyone keeps saying how the Mediterranean diet is the best diet and it's ingrained into their DNA, into their culture, and then maybe it's something that maybe we haven't really grown up with. It's
hard to say, isn't it? Are there more people at home there that have got the time to cook than here?
Yeah.
Because if you're out all day, going to London, commuting, coming home, have you got time to cook in the evening? That's the thing, isn't it? You've got to be quite organised to get some of these things in place. You've got to put it a priority. So my food is I put it high level, probably my top, my running and my food. Because if I don't have those two things right, I'll be miserable. I don't feel so well. And then everything else isn't going to, and I feel that. And I think some of us probably feel it faster than others. So we maybe put the effort into it. Like when I was younger, I was often hungry. And so I was keen on cooking because I'd want to make extra snacks sometimes or add something else to the meal or whatever, that kind of thing. So I always wanted to know, how do you make food? That for me was a real interest area. And I like tastes and flavours and things. Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't know how to cook. And I've worked with the odd client in different countries. And in some countries, it's even more fast food and they don't have...
Oh, right.
They don't cook so much. They dial in food deliveries and things. In fact, I was thinking about it. I was working with a young group recently, like a community project, and we did a topic about how to make a bolognese sauce, but also we had a session where we talked to them about ordering and got them to teach us how does this ordering work. And they do that because that's the quickest option that comes to their mind. It's available. Yeah. So they order that food in, don't they? Whereas
it's a different form of fast food, isn't it?
Yeah. Whereas I'd be thinking, sometimes I might do that, of course, but I would probably be thinking that it won't taste as good as I can cook many times anyway. It'll cost more money. I've still got to wait an hour. I've got to go through the effort of doing it on the phone app. So for me, I create all those barriers already before. And it might be cold anyway, and it might go to the wrong house. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hard to know, isn't it? Yeah, with the cooking thing. It's a hard one to... Maybe it's one I could ask people more about when I talk to them. But I think, I normally work it out with people because some people will ask for recipes. Other people, you might sometimes be a bit of education on cooking. Yeah.
So do you actually give recipes to some of your...
Yeah,
you do?
to be honest, these days, it's more send a link to a website. Like the BBC Good Food website is a really good one for recipes. Yeah. And then I caveat it and I say, look, you don't need to put extra sugar in your bolognese. The tomato's sweet enough. Or
I'm guilty of that. I put sugar in it.
Yeah, I do. This porridge has got sugar on it. Do you really need that? You don't need 2 tablespoons of honey. Or I might say to them that you might want to swap this out for them. On the other side, I do talk to people about ready meals sometimes, like some of the healthier ones, like cook and things, and mindful chef on those, because they fit into people's lifestyle when they've got busy lives. And if you've got one of those in the freezer, on that night you might phone a Deliveroo. That's your next best option, isn't it? Having something like that in the freezer. Yeah. I think that's fine.
YouTube's great for following a recipe. I follow the pie recipe I follow is a guy who does it on YouTube, and every time I cook it, I always have it on, even though I know how to cook it, but it's just like a bit of a comfort thing that you can't looking over.
I never use that.
It is really good.
Yeah. And in lockdown, we did a couple of those like meal boxes that you could get from different chefs and things.
Okay.
Did you ever see those? And so they send you a box with all the little components of the ingredients.
Oh, yes, yeah, I know.
Yeah, and then you get your instructions and things. I did a cook-along one, did loads of different ones. We had a lot of time, didn't we, to our hands? And those were nice. Learned a few skills.
And one thing, I'm a bit of a film buff, but the best food scene ever is in The Godfather. So in the first Godfather, when they make the meatballs with tomato sauce. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it.
I watched it.
I think it's the best one. Right. It's just I think you can even see it on YouTube or whatever. But just love the way the guy explains it. I don't know.
Okay.
But did you grow up liking food with people like food in your family when you were growing up? Was it?
Yeah. Both my nan used to cook a lot. We go around to hers for Sunday lunch and things, and she'd always do nice food. And then my other nan and granddad, they were always making things. Like my granddad used to do. It's now like a fashion. Like he just did bananas in milk, and he'd put it in a little glass and put it in the freezer. And then every time we went round, he'd mash it up a bit more and torment us for when it was going to be ready. 4 weeks later, we got this little mini banana ice cream thing, which nowadays some people might make that as an ice cream, just blend up some banana and milk or yogurt or something for a healthier option. Yeah. So they've all been to food. And they had an allotment as well. I would go picking, and my mum and dad have always had an allotment. Yeah. So I've been brought up around those things. Yeah. So always cooking and things like that. So, but then like Mom she was at work, so there was a phase of having frozen food and all that stuff. So you watch that program Back in Time where they go through the different
I've
houses,
seen that,
So you see like how the women's changing career really changed the whole what food was available and things.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure we had Pop-Tarts and pizzas and raspberry ripple ice creams and all this business and things. Yeah.
And I think that's quite
definitely
good.
Had a phase of that.
Yeah, because my wife has an allotment now, and she did have an allotment when the kids were growing up.
Lovely.
I think it really helps with the relationship. I think my children have had with food, seeing it grow out of the ground and then eating it and whatever. So
it's exciting, isn't it? There's a few like farms now that do this regenerative farming, and they're making a big deal in a good way, aren't they, of showing people how it all works and things. And really, that's just how our parents might have farmed, isn't it, with their little allotments and things in the past. Yeah. Maybe they might use these slug pellets or something, and I don't use those, but there's a few of those around if you go looking for them, and you can buy the vegetables or just have meals or experience the places and things as well. Yeah. So that's a nice way to get into those kind of areas and understand what's going on.
Do you think,
like your food?
I don't know, 50, 60 years ago, we ate better then than we do now? Or is that too generalist?
I don't know. I probably had less variety because a lot of people just had British like meat and 2 veg, didn't they? So was that with all this gut health things, we're told we've got to have diversity of food, of spices and things. That probably wasn't actually that diverse at that time. It's probably when you go back further and there was more different kinds of beans and things in the diet, more broad beans and things that you don't see as often now that we would have had to eat because we didn't have other food. Yeah. I reckon it goes back further, that era.
Yes. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But we weren't, I mean, as a nation, we were a lot slimmer then than we are now on an average.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've upset a few people when I've said to them, we're all a bit overweight. And people, unless you're talking to the right person, I don't say it anymore because it goes in the wrong context. But we've got access to food all the time, haven't we?
There's so much choice.
Food, alcohol, whatever we want, whenever we want it. We don't starve, the word is we don't not eat and stuff, So
before we go, because I know we've nearly done an hour, and I think it's fantastic. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk to you for ages.
Pleasure.
But I just want to know, is there any sort of the basics you can give my audience who maybe is the casual runner in terms of on the nutrition side that you can
a runner? What kind of distance do you reckon? What's your typical?
Well, I suppose from a 5k to a half marathon sort of thing.
Okay. So if you're doing things like that are under an hour, then the general consensus is you don't tend to need any extra food. Right. That's about having a good healthy diet.
So good.
If you're racing.
So is that? So what's the percentage split between carbs, proteins, and fats? So would that be 20?
Yeah, I don't use that. I think. Small. Yeah, I'm more. So with protein, I would be thinking more about grams per kilogram. So if somebody weighs, I don't know, 80 kilograms, you'd say as a minimum you want 1 gram per kilogram. So you want 80 grams of protein a day shared across the day. Right. And then if you're like an endurance sport person, it's more like 1.2 to 1.6. And if you're doing weights in the gym, it's higher than that. Mm-hmm. You have to provide, say, if you've got kidney disease, you wouldn't want to be doing that. And it's not medical advice, but that's the general amount. But I'd start with that first to make sure you're getting enough protein across those different meals and share it out as well. That's my starting point there. And then the carbs, if you're doing short distance, you need enough to keep fit and healthy and feel like you've got energy. If you then start doing your half marathons and your marathons, you probably then need to be eating realistically marathons. You probably end up eating carbs in a lot of the meals. Yeah. Make sure you're getting enough fuel. I think that's the reality. It's all individual again.
Yeah. So you can fuel the long runs and your training and that kind of
and recovery as well, and to support your immune system as well. Yeah, that's it. Because if we don't have enough fuel, then some people might get bone issues, or their periods might stop in women, and you can get get quite in the wrong direction. So if anybody's having those issues, they should go and talk to the doctor or get some help from somebody else in those areas. Yeah. But your general average person, average Joe.
Yes.
If you're doing over an hour, then you should add in some extra fuel. You might take like a fruit juice that's 50% fruit juice, 50% water. If you want something natural,
yeah,
you put a bit of salt in it or a bit of electrolyte. Mm-hmm. And then make sure you have, like, after 10K, have a good meal afterwards that's got your carbs, your proteins, a bit of fats in it.
Yeah.
If you're doing your halves and your marathons, you need to be getting more serious about what you're eating and when you're eating it. And then colour. You need to add colour to food, as in the rainbow colour of all the fruit and vegetables as well.
Yeah. All right.
Make sure that you're getting different nutrients that are reflected in those as well.
Oh, good. Excellent.
So a few tips there. Yeah.
I'd like to end on, do you have a sporting hero?
I think it's just Seb Coe. So I remember watching him I don't even know what Olympics it was. I remember watching him when I was younger, years ago,
80,
and just being really impressed. With all that. And I think just over the years, he's done different things. I've just followed him, and what is he chair? I don't know the exact title of the Olympic Committee, isn't it? Always something to do with that.
I think he helped with the 2012, didn't he?
Yeah. And I've just felt like, he's gone a good direction. I like the things that he's done. Yeah, maybe my person.
Him and Cohen Ovet in 80 and 84.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's my kind of era of being excited by running and thinking, oh, wow, look at that. Yeah.
And have you got any social links? Or I know you've got your website.
I've got websites, Health and Heart. So that's HART, and it's and as in AND. Got that one. And then I've got an Instagram, which is Joanne, then _ Health and Heart. I've got a Facebook group, which is the Ravenous Athlete. Got a few bits on the end of that, but people can join that for free as well. But Facebook's Health and Heart. So if you go on my website and look for my Instagram, you can probably track me down in all other areas as well. Okay. And if people wanted to do a nutrition review call with me, I do a free 30-minute one. Just to have a conversation and see if I can help you and find out what's going on, or point you in a different direction if it's not me. Yeah. And you can book that on my website or on my my Instagram as well.
Excellent. And I'll include all the links in the show notes.
Thank you.
But it's been really, thank you very much for your time. Anyway, it's been fantastic. That's it for another episode, and looking forward to speaking to you next week with some beginner hints and tips about running. I just want to let you know that you can follow me on X, or what was known as Twitter, at Brian's Run Pod. I have just recently set up a Facebook page which is called Brian's Run Pod, and I am on Instagram at Brian's Run Pod. Also, my website is www.briansrunpod.co.uk, where you can get show notes, or on whatever podcasting app you are listening to the show. Plus, all my episodes have chapter markers if you need to get to different segments of the show. Plus, leave a review, as it will help others find this podcast. Music is Happy Day by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.